So I am here with my dear friend and colleague, Sister Morningstar. It's my privilege and honor to introduce her and her work to all of you at the Shift Network. Sister Morningstar is a Catholic Hermitess nun. She's a retired midwife, and she travels the world teaching about safety in childbirth, and it would be so much easier for me to allow her to tell you all of the work that she does internationally. Welcome, Sister Morningstar.
Good morning, Tonya, my dear friend. It's good to be with you.
So you and I, when I asked you about the MeToo Summit, MeToo dialogues, what came up and what I was interested in discussing with you is my belief that MeToo impacts probably, I would venture to say, almost all people on the planet. I think Japan and India have said there's 100% sexual violence against women. And I wouldn't be surprised if that was true everywhere in the world. And I think that though we're hearing about it in the workplace and particularly in Hollywood, I have a strong belief that what women express as adults and what they've experienced in childhood are connected. And I'd love to hear your thoughts about that.
Well, the first thing I want to say is that I live off the grid, so I don't really know about these things like Me Too, except for often talking with you, which I love doing and talking about, because we've been talking about it long before people give names to like Me Too movements. You and I have been discussing this from the first moment we met. And I think the reason that I have such a deep interest is as a women's health keeper, I've never met a woman who doesn't intimately experience this discrepancy about moving from sensuality to sexuality, often even before then, and having predator energy show up around her. So sometimes, and I would say actually most of the time, she has dealt with that invasion into what was originally kind of a rising energy of excitement and maybe even curiosity or naturalness about her being from the inside out, and only to have that turn into something scary, and it could be pre-verbal. But so if I'm working with a mother to be or a woman in her adult life, and there's any indication of closeness or too openness, and if I start to ask questions, and I'd like to give an example right now. I mean, you and I work with this all the time through examples, and women's narratives are the most important to me. To me, facts are made up of women's herstory, which is why I call it herstory instead of history, because their stories are facts. They don't have to be delineated in some sort of analytical, linear, scientific formula form, which the patriarchy often uses to discredit or say, well, you just contradicted that, or I don't know what. It's just a mess. But women's stories go round and round and back and forth because that's what happened. And anyway, so recently I was with a beautiful woman, and this is just a normal example, who claimed that she had no history of any kind of sexual violence or abuse or misuse. And the way that comes up for me when I work with women is I often will ask them about their first sexual experience, or just like I might ask them about their first onset of their moon flow or their period, their bleeding. What was that like? What was that first experience like? So I might ask, well, what was your first experience, your first sexual experience? And so this woman had said, like many many women, oh, it was lovely or this or that, or it was funny or it was difficult, but I don't have any negative experience. And yet her challenge or her difficulty had to do with breastfeeding. Okay, so there's a red light already for me, because she ended up having some strong emotions come out in breastfeeding that confused her, didn't make any sense. And anyway, all I said was, sometimes these kinds of well, all the time, a large feeling in a woman, if it's a large feeling, whether she remembers it or she doesn't remember it, had its origin in her childhood. Right? So a kind of a more understandable feeling, that could happen to any of us. Our house burns down, or I don't know. All kinds of things can happen that produce a feeling. But if it is a tiger feeling, like a wolf feeling, a bear feeling, like I want to do something, then, that feeling is touching back into a childhood feeling. Or it could be the opposite. It could be like, I'm frozen, I'm scared, I want to hide, I don't want anybody to know. So it's these big feelings, and they're born early. And for me, as a health keeper, women's health keeper, I get excited. I mean, I know it's horrible, but I get excited. I'm like, we're close to a gold mine, especially if it's a woman who feels like, no, I was fine. I feel like, oh my God, I'm on holy ground right now, like sacred ground, because she's her deeper inner life is starting to come up for her. And it just gets me excited, because she's going to experience freedom that she's never felt before. See, I get emotional about it. Can't help it.
So with this woman, what came up?
Well, I hesitate to speak, very much about any details, because it's such a unique case, and I wouldn't want feeling exposed. But it's not uncommon for, once we start to weave the other kinds of facts and details together, like, oh, that was about the same year that mom divorced that guy and married that guy. Or, like these facts that they've been very comfortable sharing with the world, or even sharing with themselves. All of a sudden it's like, oh dear, that's when I started pulling my hair out. That's when I started chewing my nails. That's when I started, just having lots and lots of lovers. Like, I thought, oh, I'm just a free woman. I'm getting my independence. I'm going for it. Oh, that's when that started happening. Mm. We often say 1 out of 3 in America, 1 out of 3 girls have survived childhood incest or misuse and abuse. But and we all know it's higher than that. But of that content that's willing to say, yeah, me too. Now that's a new word for it. Almost 100% of them either would never tell their mother, tried to tell their mother, did tell their mother, and nothing happened. Now there's a few where the mother like kicks ass. I'm sorry, shouldn't have said that like out loud here, but they just like, you're out of here, buddy. Because it's often dad, Uncle Tom, grandpa. It's not stranger danger. We all know that. But we're talking about childhood. So it's long before workplaces or, whatever. It's somebody that knows the child very well. So I often, teach parents, if there's a coach or a teacher that's like, oh, your kid's amazing. I want to give them special attention. We don't even know how far they'll go. They're, parents love to hear that their kids are amazing. You know what? A teacher, a coach, even a neighbor, they shouldn't like one of your kids more than the other kid. They shouldn't like your kid over all the kids that they're, in the care of. That's your first red light, is that they think the kid is special. Your kid's not supposed to be special. Your kid isn't special, any more special than all the other kids. She's just special to you, which is as it should be.
That's a hard one right there, but that's reality.
That's reality. So then back to, and we're, we're talking about girls primarily. Obviously, we know no little boys are abused, but so then with a lot of the women I work with, they're adult women, they still haven't told mama. They'll say things like, oh, she couldn't take it. She'd never be able to take it. Or when they do tell mom, there's the typical horrible, extreme of like, well, you don't dress right and you've always been, it's partly your fault. But even, backing up from that edge of the paradigm, the full edge that's in the middle, I mean, not edge, but the most of it that's in the middle is simply, a little girl is going to kind of saddle up and she's going to try to say things like, Mom, Mary Ann, this boy, did this to Mary Ann, or Mary Ann, this is happening to Mary Ann, or whatever. She's trying to tell you something. There's no Mary Ann, okay? The story is about herself. And she's testing the water to see, what are you, how are you going to react? What are you going to say about Mary Ann? And then from there, even if they get that bold to try to say something, often and unfortunately, adult women are much more invested in the partner, the man, the stability, the cultural or the social story. And so if there's any way in their minds to make it out like, oh, Grandpa doesn't mean anything by that. What are we going to do about Christmas if Grandpa's really a bad guy, right? So it's just easier to say, Uncle Tom, he's always been friendly to everybody, or whatever. Or your dad's an energy worker. That's part of how you're lucky, you're getting to have energy work. It's so frustrating to me that we as women have lost our she-bear, she-wolf, she-tiger energy that would say, see these claws? They are taking your eyes out. Get back from my child. I'm not even going to talk to you about it. You're already eyeless. Like that's the natural world. And how we've culturized and domesticated and enslaved and entrapped and captivated women where they would grow up and not protect their child is just breaks my heart. So I work to empower women, to get in touch with their instinct and their she-bear power. And part of that for the human, we are social creatures. So part of that for the human female is we've got to buddy up. We need a tribe. When we have a sisterhood, we're raised to hear the word brotherhood and think that includes us. It does not include us. We need a sisterhood. When we have a sisterhood, we can do a whole lot more than we can think about doing all by ourselves. So I'm not hopeless. I'm just frustrated and disgusted until there's one wild baby born that starts putting the dots together. And then I'm like, all right, gold mine.
So how can children even develop their sisterhood?
Well, I think that like them growing their femur, it is a natural thing. Like we have to go to a lot of trouble to isolate them and disrupt them. And one of the ways that our modern society does that is we keep them too busy. We keep them too busy with gymnastics and volleyball and after school programs and, super Einstein opportunities. So they don't have time to just be, find their little tribes and I guess it's called hangout. I'm not a great hangout kind of gal myself, but because I started my first women's group when I was 12 years old. It was before, I went to the government schools. I was the first generation that went to the government schools, public school. And, before school, there we were, like outside the building, and people were doing all kinds of crazy things, making out and do whatever they were doing, boring to me. And I just found a couple of gals and I'm like, let's sit under the tree and talk about, you know, what's going on and what we want to do in this world. Like we're going to do something. What do we want to do in this world, and what's happening to us now? That I just wanted to know. So we met every morning and then every week for the rest of my life. Sunday nights, 7 to 9 on the Holy Land, Wild Woman. We meet every week.
What is the power that comes from meeting with the tribe?
Yeah, you can't keep girls from meeting with each other unless you just keep them too busy and keep like, oh, but here's your gymnastics group and here's your this group and that group. Pretty soon they can't keep it together, you know, or we move them or we give them this opportunity. We think we've done something great, but they need unrushed, unstructured, unsupervised time together, and they'll work it all out. I think.
What's in that? What's the power in this finding your tribe of women?
Well, you mean like from little or on, maybe all?
Well, I mean, I recently had an experience that involved the legal system, and it was out of my hands. And the only thing my instinct said to me was, I got to call my wolf pack. I got to call my wolf pack. And I brought in my wolf pack, and the energy changed in a way. And most of them were like, why are you in court? And I was like, that doesn't even matter. I just need my pack. We are stronger when we run with our pack. And it was a transformative experience for me. So I know the power of it, but for people who are like, I don't like to hang out with women. Women are too this and women are too that. How do we what can either of us say that would make them think, oh no, there's some mystery and some power that you have yet to discover till you find your sisterhood and your tribe of women?
Well, you know what? They may be right if they're feeling that way, because if they're feeling that way, that's what they're bringing, you know, to the circle as well. So, you know, once you start to feel like getting in nature or being with a woman where you just literally say, you know, what's the state of your soul? Not how's your latest, I don't know, superficial, you know, how's your hair? Where do you do your nails? What play did you see lately? But like, what's the state of your soul? Not how are you, where the polite answer is, I'm great. How are you? But what's the state of your soul? Then once you're willing to answer that, then you're going to start magnetizing and attracting other people who are curious about that. And from there, it's an explosion. Like, oh my God. And who knows what all we talk about? We talk about when we're women and we get together, and it's like a feather landing on water. Of course, it's right up here for a moment. Like it starts to sink and go deeper and deeper and deeper until finally, if we're with those same women, you know, repeatedly, and even if there's a touch of nature or at least a little bit of ritual, a candle, something that's not plastic. You know what I mean? Like we live in a world that's made up. It's just pretend. But if there's even some piece of something that's real, it's going to start to bring forth something real in us. So ritual, women are geniuses at ritual and creating a moment that they want it in sex. You know, like we want it in our intimate moments. I mean, I'm a women's health keeper. I know women from all walks of life, and you know we're geniuses at this. And so to let us be together and start to go there together, women who say I don't know, it's another gold mine. I'm like, oh yeah, we know. We just wish we didn't. We just wish we didn't. Or women are like, I'm scared. I'm like, I'm scared of him. I'm scared of that. No, we're scared of our power. And so, you know, to be with a pack and a tribe, the great thing about a tribe and a sisterhood and a pack, once you're together, you know, for a little while, everybody's irreplaceable. Even the ones that are, I don't know, quirky or talk to me. You can't replace that. That's her. You know, it's different than when you just are not invested in that woman because we start girls out like this. Oh, well, that's gym, or that's my gymnastics, or my this, but I'm never going to really see her again. So why do I have to invest very much? It's subconscious. We're biological creatures, and we're exciting and powerful and amazing creatures. And from the beginning, so back to this kind of topic, which you and I, can talk days and hours and weeks and travel around the world talking about, is so we take a little girl and we'll think we're a loving, caring mother, and we'll say things like, honey, don't you let anybody hurt you. If they try to hurt you, you tell mother. Don't let people touch you. They've got to ask permission. It's your body. And then we take them to the doctor. And we say, oh no, this one can hurt you. And, I'll give you a lollipop, or I'll take you to the movie or whatever. If you be cooperative and sit there, let him look. And he's a doctor. He's got a purpose for making you uncomfortable. And, even if it hurts a little bit, that's just, he's trying to do his job. He's got to do. Do you see what I mean? When you're little, it not only doesn't make any sense, you've only got two choices. You've got to either do what is natural, which is to bite, kick, and, tear his stethoscope off. Now you've displeased him and your mom, plus you don't get the lollipop or the movie. Or you have to do all of that, and the poor bargain, the price you pay, is now your instinct has dropped a notch and dropped a notch and dropped a notch. So when the next person hurts you or you don't feel right, that instinct to do something about it is overridden. And the voice inside is like, well, but this is for my own good, or I'm not going to get the diamond ring or the house or the job or this is just part of how it goes. Just part of how it goes. When it could have gone instinct. And instinct is, we have an innate instinct, and we have an innate right to that instinct. And so for me, I'm for child emancipation. I feel like children should have a voice, a view, and a vote on anything that's going to affect them, just like we do. And when I hear people say, now I got off on another subject, but if I hear people say, oh, but they would make a bad choice, I'm like, oh, really? That's what they used to say about women voting. That sounds like a really good reason. That's been used for a long time. No, thank you. They have a right to live with their poor choices, just like you have a right to live with your poor choices.
I couldn't agree more. And it's, I feel like if we don't begin to listen to children and ask children, because it does begin so early and sometimes so pre-verbally, if we don't go back and address this where it begins, we're just putting Band-Aids on it.
Well, I think that if you feel something, you feel it for a reason. So if you're 22 and you're feeling it, you feel it for a reason. And that reason was really early. And if you're a little girl and you're feeling something, you feel it for a reason. So if a dog, if somebody comes to the door and they're a friend of the owner, but the dog is like, then, and even the owner will say, oh, no, she's fine. But they're like, there's a reason, okay? And instinct precedes incident. So they shouldn't have to say, oh, they hurt me. They're saying, I'm afraid they'll hurt me. And them being afraid that they'll hurt me is actually more important than they hurt me. So if a mother or father, whoever has a child, and that child is uncomfortable, just remember that instinct precedes incident. They shouldn't have to wait for the incident to happen.
And
And
so
also
much
little people, tell somebody. And if that person won't believe you, tell somebody else. And if that person won't believe you, tell me. Like, write me, call me, tell somebody until somebody believes you. And mothers can't always believe you. Teachers can't always believe you. Priests and police can't always believe you, but somebody will believe you. Keep telling somebody until somebody believes you. And for the adults, just remember, instinct precedes incident. Those two things, forget the breaking the silence. You break the silence when you tell somebody, but then if they don't believe you, what do you do with that? We got to just keep telling somebody until all of a sudden we're pregnant with a child and we tell a midwife something, and that midwife's smart enough to not just follow a formula. Well, I asked her and she said no. I asked her if she remembered ever being abused and she said no. So I checked my box and I'm done. But when we're a sisterhood, we're not done until we remember that people feel things for a reason. And so that's how I work. And that's how I love talking with you, because you and I, we know these stories from around the world, from every social caste, every ethnic caste, every where there's a woman, there's a story.
I feel that this idea of instinct and instinct injury, which is that thing that begins in childhood when we are told to do the thing that's uncomfortable because it's good for us. You and I both have been working on, helping women to heal their instinct injury. Are there rituals or ways in which you would offer that people might, who are, if you live in the city and you're around brick and steel and stone, you're not thinking about ritual, and unless it's like, oh, I'm going to go pay X number of dollars and I'm going to go have this thing with somebody. But what are the ways, particularly for people who are denatured by the way we live in cities, to begin to rebuild their instinct?
I think that's one of the most valuable questions that we can ask ourselves as adult women, or even maybe for our maidens, our children. Because if I work in Mumbai or St. Petersburg or Moscow or New York City or wherever, they're challenged, right, to spend a lot of time in nature. But there are tricks of the trade to build the instinct. And some of my favorite are water. Like, get yourself in water, even if it's a shower or a bathtub. You don't have to go to a fancy spa, but get yourself naked in water and just take a couple of breaths. Just be in water, because we're 9 months in water, right? It's our primal element. And if we let ourselves just sink deep into that subconscious place, we're going to, all kinds of memories. People think they can't remember, the circumstances around being born, but you were there. You know them. You were there. They're right there available to you. They're just waiting for elements. So water, of course, nature. If you can walk in a park, get near a tree, sit under a tree. Hey, there's all kinds of stories about people getting enlightened sitting under a tree, right? So, choose a tree, grow a plant. Just a potted plant, something that depends on you for life and smells. If you're a woman, make it a flowering plant. Watch it flower. Study how it has its seasons of dormants. It's dormant for a while and then it blooms. And hey, you're like that. That's your nature. You have times where you're just like quiet and inward and, outward. Our own cycles, our own moon flows, our own bleeding, like, catch some of it, put it in a pot of water, a jar with water, and feed your plant. Notice, when do you cycle? Do you cycle with the moon, the full moon, the new moon? Do you have a pack? Do you have some tribal sisters? Find out when they're cycling, because lo and behold, won't be long and you're all cycling together. So the elements, earth, air, fire, and water, your voice, singing, or just letting yourself move, or, any of the elements, earth, fire, and water, and your instinct will start to build and attract your sisterhood.
What about for us? Like, I've certainly felt like times that if I remembered all that I've forgotten, it would just destroy me. My mind would be destroyed, that I've forgotten because my self knows that I can't handle it.
I'm actually a believer in that. I think it's important that we let the memories come up at a rate and at a way that we can integrate. So integration is more important than change. So if we force change or force knowing too much too fast, like somebody else imposes that on us, then we can't integrate it. And we do that's the reason we suppressed it in the first place, right? But there are ways to get in through that back door too. And that's one of my favorite ways is dreams. So if we go to sleep and we want to know something, let's say we want to know. Let's say we were, this woman, and we wanted to know, why is breastfeeding so challenging for me? Then before we go to sleep in a dream, we can start to ask, what's the root of this discomfort that I feel? Or what's the truth of my inner nature? What's the truth of my being? We can ask any question, and the dream, our subconscious and the inner world will give us a dream. Of course, it will be in archetypical language, which is fun and beautiful. And again, if you have your pack and your tribe, you can go, wow, I had this dream. What do we think all those things mean? You don't have to have a fancy dream analysis you don't have to have a penny to start to invite that which is within you to be revealed to you. Reveal to me the truth of who I am. Reveal to me the root of this discomfort. Reveal to me why I get so excited about XYZ. Reveal to me why I'm such a angry person. Reveal to me why I'm so creative at night. Why am I so creative at night? It could be anything. You can ask anything, because if you form the question, the answer's in it, and the subconscious will give you some impressions, and they will be from your childhood. They will be elements from your childhood. It's not possible. The brain cannot create something through stored memory that doesn't exist already. It's yours. It's so powerful. Women are the most amazing creatures on the planet. That's why I'm not for equal rights. People always for equal rights, sister, we need equal rights. I'm like, no, we don't. Women need more rights than men. There's no advantage to women for equal rights. Women need and deserve more rights than men. We grow babies. We birth babies. We nurture babies. We not only do that with our body, we nurture homes. We are the creative elemental force that keeps a person healthy, another person healthy at our breast, a family healthy, a neighborhood healthy, a culture healthy, a world healthy. That nurturing quality, that caring quality, that part of the species that cares about all of these different, that's the feminine aspect. No, women need more rights than men.
I would agree with you on that as well.
It isn't to say that our male children don't need protected, but see, in nature, it's the female that's going to protect both of them. Yeah.
You are the host of a community called the MorningStar community. What is the work that is done in the community?
Well, let's see. We're actually celebrating our 25th or quarter century anniversary this year, and that's just this, where we've been on the land for 25 years in this spot. The community is actually, much older, And let's see, what do? The core central part is a women's circle. So the women gather from around the world at the summer solstice. And it's been out of that gathering and looking at the soul and the inner life of women, that out of that has grown maidens retreats. So we meet the needs of maidens, Red Earth Youth retreats where male and female youth come together, crone ceremonies, everything that women need as they move through the journey between maiden, mother, crone. All of that grows out of the community, and we respond to the needs as they're presenting. So right now we have village prenatals because we've got a lot of mothers who are expecting, and so we'll gather down by the creek and feed them and listen to their babies and love them and ask them, what is your ideal birth? So we, from first breaths to last breaths. Now we have burial grounds. So it's the life of a village. That's what it is. MorningStar community is a little village. So from first to last breaths and everything in between, health, worship, education, anything and everything. And we're very diverse. So the answers are diverse, but we care about every person and how all of those things are happening in their lives. We're a village. We're a community.
Yes. And there's so little of that. And I feel like if we are to shift consciousness around whatever Me Too, whatever you want to call it, it begins with community and with community building instinct. And so few of us have access to that anymore since we don't live with families and we don't even have a family or a community with the people we work with. We live in big, tall boxes and we may not even know the people who are sharing the boxes with us. And there's an isolation of our time and an anonymity that social media allows people to have, that I think allows people to treat other people in ways that it's as if the people aren't even human or aren't even equal to who they are. I think that's what civilization has risen to.
Yes, and who knows if it was just as horrible in the Middle Ages or who knows what, but it is our current, challenge. But being someone who travels around the world, it's so exciting to me because you can start a women's circle anywhere. I started a women's circle on a plane crossing the Atlantic Ocean. Yeah, with some Czechoslovakian women, because I was sitting next to them. It is a big story. It's kind of a fun story. But anyway, whether it's Mumbai or Moscow, some of these huge concrete cities, but we get women's circles going. And once, women can gather, and once they start gathering and start caring about, again, what's going on inside, like what's the state of your soul, what's happening, and then it doesn't need to be some big cause. We're a good enough cause, okay? We don't need another cause. Women and starting women's circles, that's my great fun thing to do. Just plant a seed and get a women's circle going. And from there, they know their culture, they know their people, they know themselves, they know what they want to talk about or want to do. And we just add a little ritual to it. Maybe we drum at the beginning, but we certainly howl at the end. And they've got it and they're going. And like I said, I started one in an airplane. I can't remember what kind of airplane it was, but anyhow, we were going over the Atlantic Ocean with these Czechoslovakian women who had noticed me in the airport hallway or whatever. They're like, wow, who is that person? I'm like, let's do it here. They're like, will you come to Czechoslovakia and start a women's circle? And I'm like, let's do it now. We've got 8 hours. And so we did. Yeah, women's circles have originated from the dawn of time. And since time is a fabric of the human mind, time's now. That's the time's up thing. They probably thought of that. But anyway, whether it's Me Too or Time's Up or whatever the modern modern language would be for it, women need women, and when they get together and start forming a sisterhood, we've got the beginning of saving the world.
Mm.
Well, so you and I, we're going to keep doing what we do, and may us sharing, what we do help other women to get in touch with themselves and start their own women's circle.
Yes. Yes. I think that's a beautiful way to close this session, planting a seed for all of the viewers who take in this interview with Sister Morningstar to begin to form their circles in their communities. And
Well, what I want to say, Tonya, that you and I say, I say it all the time, and we take it around the world and say it, and that is, what one woman can do, all women can do. So that's what I want to say to anybody that, was listening or might even tell another woman, like what one woman can do, all women can do. So if I can do it, if Tonya can do it, you can do it. I believe in you.
Ashe.
Oh.
Thank you, Sister Morningstar. And may you have a beautiful day and a kiss to your heart.